Hello and welcome to the Red Leaf Card, your home for Canadian soccer news and views. My name is Jacob and today we're going to be talking about the draw for the 2026 CONCACAF Champions Cup draw, the search for the Vancouver Whitecaps new stadium, and also the new signings for the Canadian Premier League. Now, starting with the CONCACAF Champions Cup draw, as for the Canadian teams, as Forge FC will be playing Tigres. That's a big one for Forge FC. As known, Forge FC has been playing Liga MX teams repeatedly, but this one is going to be a big one for Forge FC in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. But Bobby Smarionis, for the coach for Forge FC, thinks they could have a chance in this upcoming Champions Cup. I do think this is going to be a tough one for Forge FC still. But again, you have lots of question marks for the Canadian Premier League teams that have been called up for the CONCACAF Champions Cup, which also Atletico Ottawa and Vancouver FC are in this 2026 CONCACAF Champions Cup. Not just those three Canadian Premier League teams, but you also have the Vancouver Whitecaps also winning the Canadian Championship and also being the team that was qualified in one of the Major League Soccer spots that qualified for the CONCACAF Champions Cup. And I still think Forge FC, which now they do have a competitive team coming in for the first round, I still think Forge FC will have some struggles. But again, you look at the roster for the Forge FC, you have Brian Wright, you have Mohan Baboli, you have Tristan Borges, and Kyle Becker. I see a decent squad, but it does question a lot of fans that could they actually beat Tigres in this upcoming round. It has to be a miracle for Forge FC to actually win this against Tigres. But again, you always look at the chances. But I always know that Forge FC is really been this Canadian Premier League that has the most experienced for the CONCACAF Champions Cup. And could they improve in this matchup? You might not know until they start the kickoff in February 3rd. So that's their home matchup in the first leg against Tigres. But it's not just Forge FC that is going to be the Canadian Premier League that's going to be excited to watch. It's Atletico Ottawa versus Nashville SC. Why do I say that is going to be where Atletico Ottawa is going to be playing? A lot of fans were questioning about will they be playing at home in Ottawa at TD Place. And yes, that a lot of fans got the message from the owners, and Atletico Ottawa won't be playing at home in Ottawa. When they got the message, as Lansdowne is getting a renovation from that place, so it kind of affected their chance to play in Ottawa. So they tried in Quebec, they tried closer areas near home, but they'll be playing in Hamilton Stadium alongside with Forge FC's home area. But if Atletico Ottawa wins against Nashville SC of winning the aggregate score in the first round, they'll be versing off Inter Miami. And this will be a big shocker for Canadian Premier League fans coming in, because who will they be versing is alongside with Lionel Messi, Luis Suarez, and a lot of big players out there that's being with Inter Miami. And it's going to be a great match, but here's the negative coming in for Atletico Ottawa. Can Atletico Ottawa, if they make it to the next round and they will be versing Inter Miami, will they play at home? Will they actually play in Ottawa for this matchup? Because that is going to be a big pleasing fan base coming in. But again, if they were playing in Hamilton, you're also bringing in a big fan base to support. But I know that Atletico Ottawa fans are going to be upset about this if they play in Hamilton, because it's a long drive. I get that. So if Atletico Ottawa gets Inter Miami, I think a lot of fans are going to look at that saying, I don't want to miss the moment that Atletico Ottawa will be versing Inter Miami with Lionel Messi, even Luis Suarez, which was confirmed that he will be staying with Inter Miami. And that is going to be something. So Atletico Ottawa versus Nashville SC is going to be in February 17th in the first leg of their home matchup in Hamilton. But again, now we go to our third Canadian Premier League team, Vancouver FC, the last place team, but is the runner-ups for the Canadian Championship of 2025. They'll be versing the reigning champs of the CONCACAF Champions Cup, Cruz Azul, which is a shocker for what actually came up during the draw. I look at it, would it be shocking that Cruz Azul loses a team that is last place during the 2025 season and was the runner-ups for the 2025 Canadian Championship, and Vancouver FC, the best last place team, which they call themselves, beats Cruz Azul in the first round for that. And I don't, but a lot of people would say Cruz Azul too competitive for this one. To be honest, I would be alongside with Cruz Azul of actually winning this round. But if Vancouver FC pulls it off, that'll be something from a lot of fans to look at it, saying that's one of the best upsets for the 2025 CONCACAF Champions Cup. But where are they going to be playing? They'll be playing at home at Willoughby Stadium. And that's a pleasing moment for Vancouver FC fans that they'll be playing at home. In the first leg, February 4th, a lot of fans for the Canadian Premier League thought that it wouldn't be happening, that they will be playing at home. But again, they will be. And for the Vancouver Whitecaps, who were the runner-ups from the 2025 CONCACAF Champions Cup, lost to Cruz Azul, will be versing a Costa Rican team, Cartaginés, in the first round. Their home matchup is going to be in February 25th at BC Place, which I would think that Vancouver Whitecaps could actually have the easiest of all the Canadian teams in the first round. But it's not just easy for the Whitecaps for the future, is that the Whitecaps are now losing where is their new home of a new stadium in Vancouver. And yes, BC Place will no longer be a home for the Vancouver Whitecaps, which now is a big problem. They've been with the city of Vancouver, the mayor of Vancouver, and now they signed to make an agreement. So where will the Vancouver Whitecaps' new stadium be? That's the real question for Whitecap fans. And it's going to be at Hastings Park. They want to make that stadium just where the horse racetrack is. And it's going to be a good place since that place has not been used all the time. And probably they'll start building that stadium in the year 2026 or probably late 2026. But again, when I look at Vancouver Whitecaps leaving BC Place, that was a great place for the Vancouver Whitecaps. But again, does the new stadium for Vancouver Whitecaps affect that BC Lions for the CFL team move there? That's a question mark that a lot of fans always say, but we have to wait and see. Does every single affect that some of the teams that play in BC Place cause everything? It's like this moment that you look at Montreal, that their Olympic stadium, that the Montreal Expos played there in the Olympic stadium, which no longer that the Montreal Expos plays there because they relocated. And now the Montreal Olympic Stadium is not even used. And now you're going through BC Place, which is also an Olympic stadium for the Winter Olympics. I look at it right now, you have every Olympic stadium is not being used. But if you look at Calgary, they have an Olympic stadium there. And we just wait and see how the future holds for the BC Place, of what they're going to do with that place in the running. And again, hoping Vancouver Whitecaps gets a better stadium and hoping how it looks for Vancouver Whitecaps. And now we're hearing new things, new signings in the Canadian Premier League, that FC Supra just announced their three new signings for the Canadian Premier League upcoming season 2026, and they made good signings for one of their three players. First signing, David Chouanier, former Forge FC player, has experience of winning championships for the Canadian Premier League. Louis Quemier, midfielder, good signing. Sean Rea, and also a good signing. And those are the first three signings that FC Supra signed. And we're hoping to see there's some rumors that Sissoko, former Atletico Ottawa midfielder, could actually play for FC Supra. But it's not we see from these signings. A lot of fans would say FC Supra might be one of the most competitive teams we might see with a roster now we're seeing. But we look at Halifax Wanderers. As noticed, Patrice Geyser is no longer with Halifax Wanderers. They made a big surprise of who their coach is. It's former Vancouver Whitecaps coach Vanni Sartini. He has made the Vancouver Whitecaps win 3 Canadian Championship titles. And again, I look at it saying, this is something that Halifax Wanderer fans should be pleased. But again, I look at signing Vanni Sartini is even a good signing for this upcoming season as a coach. But can Vanni Sartini push all the way to go for the title? That's really the question for that. And a lot of fans would say Vanni Sartini could probably push it all the way. But again, you need a good roster going through, because you always look at saying Halifax Wanderers struggle during the Canadian Championship. But again, you look at Vanni Sartini. He was really good at pushing all the way for the Canadian Championship. But you're talking about the regular season. You're talking about the playoffs. Is Halifax Wanderers that possible underdog to win the regular season or the North Star Cup for the upcoming season? And you'll be looking at again you're talking with also FC Supra now making these signings with their first 3 signings. I would have to say that this 2026 season could be good for this upcoming season. And and to remind, this could be a competitive season with maybe FC Supra. You might have Halifax Wanderers also, because they signed Vanni Sartini. You also might question, can Vancouver FC be also competitive? You also have Forge FC, you have Calvary FC in there, and now you look at question marks with Pacific FC or Inter Toronto FC. I look at also Atletico Ottawa being also the competitive team going to the playoffs. But there's a lot of teams right now in that question mark who will be the 5 Canadian Premier Leagues in the Canadian Premier League playoffs, or who will be the final 2 for the finals. So it's going to be hard to say who will be the finalist. But we have to wait until 2026 and the start of the season. And that's full time of the Red Leaf Card. You can follow us on X, Spotify, and YouTube. I'm your host, Jacob, subbing out.